This dictation will be 100 word per minutes. Last ready. Start. Having noted that there is a clear conflict between the two decisions of this court, a three bench of this court has referred the matter to a large bench proposing the following questions of law to be considered by the larger bench, preferably of a bench consisting of 7 judges of this court, provided that the price was to be the minimum price to be notified by the government subject to such deduction, if any, as may be notified by the government from time to time, meaning thereby the central government, the state government not having made any provision in that behalf at any time whatsoever, since this court found no such power exercised by the state government. However, subsequently specifically gone into the question of repugnancy and held that the inconsistency or repugnancy will rise if the state government fixes a price which is lower than that fixed by the central government, but if the price fixed by the state government is higher than that fixed by the central government, there will be no occasion for any inconsistency or repugnancy, as it is possible for both the orders to operate simultaneously and to comply with both of them. When the question is whether a provincial legislation is repugnant to an existing Indian law, the onus of showing its repugnancy and the extent to which it is repugnant should be on the party attacking its validity. There ought to be a presumption in favor of its validity, and every effort should be made to reconcile them and construe both so as to avoid their being repugnant to each other, and care should be taken to see whether the two do not really operate in different fields without encroachment. Further, repugnancy must exist in fact and not depend merely on a possibility. It is straight law that the plea of repugnancy would be attracted only if both the legislations fall under the concurrent list. In other words, the question of repugnancy under Article 254 of the Constitution arises when the provisions of both laws are completely inconsistent with each other, or when the provisions of both laws are absolutely irreconcilable with each other, and it is impossible without disturbing the other provision, or conflicting interpretations resulted into when both the statutes covering the same field are applied to a given set of facts. That is to say, in simple words, repugnancy between the two statutes would arise if there is a direct conflict between the two provisions and the law made by Parliament and law made by the state legislature occupies the same field. Hence, whenever the issue of repugnancy between the law passed by Parliament and of state legislature are raised, it becomes quite necessary to examine as to whether the two legislations cover or relate to the same subject matter or different. The presidential assent has to be held as being non-existent. The test for determining such repugnancy is indeed to find out the dominant intention of both the legislations and whether such dominant intentions of both the legislations are alike or different. To put it simply, a provision is one legislation in order to give effect to its dominant purpose may incidentally be on the same subject as covered by the provisions of the other legislation, but such partial or incidental coverage of the same area in a different context and to achieve a different purpose does not attract the doctrine of repugnancy. In a nutshell, in order to attract the doctrine of repugnancy, both the legislations must be substantially on the same subject. The state law would be void to the extent of the repugnancy. This naturally means that where both the state and parliament occupy the field contemplated by the concurrent list, then the act passed by the parliament being prior in point of time will prevail, and consequently the state act will have to yield to the central act. In fact, the scheme of constitution is a scientific and equitable distribution of legislative powers between parliament and the state legislatures. Secondly, so far as the concurrent list is concerned, both parliament and the state legislatures are entitled to legislate in regard to any of the entries appearing therein, but that is subject to the condition laid down by Article 254(1) discussed above. This court also negatived the submission on behalf of the sugar factories that as the consent cannot be said to be a voluntary consent, and as the consent was obtained under compulsion or duress, and even though it may have been mentioned in the forms or in the purchase, and therefore it cannot be said to be a sale. The benefit of the sugar factory, as by such agreements it gets an assurance of a continuous supply of freshly harvested sugar cane on the days indicated in the requisition slips issued by it, so that there may not be any problem in getting optimum quantity of raw material throughout the crushing season. In absence of the agreements, the sugar factory will also be a loser, as it may face great problem in getting the supply of sugar cane according to its requirement. The occupiers of the factory are themselves keen for execution of the agreements, but their only objection is to the mention of state advised price. The agreement is one composite transaction, and it is not open to them to contend that the terms thereof, which are to their advantage, should be enforced, but the term relating to price notified by the state government should not be enforced, as their consent in that regard was not a voluntary act. In our opinion, having regard to the advantages deprived by the sugar factories, they are fully bound by the agreement wherein the state advised price may be mentioned, and it is not open to them to assail the clause relating to price of the sugar cane on the ground that their consent was not voluntary or was obtained under some kind of duress. Stop. ये डिक्टेशन 2-3 जगह पे गलत पढ़ा गया है, PDF से चेक कर सकते हैं। और ये डिक्टेशन 100, 101, 100 और 105 के बीच होगा। सब्सक्राइब करिए, अच्छा लगे तो कमेंट भी करें, कुछ सजेशन हो तो सजेशन भी दें। अगेन थैंक्स।